Okay, welcome to the Organized Opulence podcast, where wellness meets luxury and organization creates peace. I am your host, Cheryl Palmer, a nurse. I'm an entrepreneur and a self-care advocate. Here we talk about things from creating balance in your busy life to building routines that feel simple, nourishing, and even a little glamorous. So grab your favorite cup of tea or whatever makes you relax, settle in, and let's get started on our journey to peace, purpose, and a touch of opulence. This led me to invite today's guest, who is an expert in beauty, business, and mental wellness. I am joined with multi-business owner Carolyn Sims, aka Candy, licensed senior cosmetologist, licensed mental health therapist, and supervisor. Our conversation will make you consider self-care and wellness in a new way as we explore the mental wellness that exists beyond beauty and discuss what it takes to be a business professional who manages personal self-care and self-care of others. In this conversation with Carolyn, we'll be discussing the role of the self-care in business success, well-being, and creativity, while revealing some self-care and mental health tips for busy professionals who perform and receive self-care services. So imagine your haircut, your pedicure, your massage, your therapy session as discussing caring for the self behind self-care. So, hi, Miss Carolyn, Candy, as I know her. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting.
You're welcome. To start our conversation, I want to explore the role of self-care plays in a person's business success in the business industry. I know you have a lot of experience in the beauty industry and mental health space, but can you tell us a bit more about your beauty business and how you got started?
Okay. So I'm a licensed senior cosmetologist, but how I got started was not being licensed already. So when I was younger, I was always into, we say in my opinion, doing my hair, right? So I always wanted it to look nice. However, my mom was also providing services to like our family, like we used to call them perms. So they're actually not perms, they're okay. So my mother would do that. She would press and curl everybody's hair in the neighborhood and her family. We had a rack of females in our family. So she would do everybody's hair. And so I think that those trends just, passed down to me, right? Seeing her doing it, but I had a knack for it. So I started doing hair, but I started doing haircuts, boy haircuts first. And then after, because my cousins, back then nobody had a lot of money to do anything, right? So my cousins would want me to cut their hair. And so I would take the opportunity to learn how to cut hair. So I cut the boys' hair and then I started to do the girls' hair, right? And I actually experienced my first haircut when I was 13 with a neighbor across the street. She allowed me to do her hair and I was so happy that she allowed me to do it. And from there, I just told me I was sitting in the front so happy that I was able to cut her hair and gave her asymmetric, right? And so that was the start of my entry into the hair industry, right? Well, yeah, even though I wasn't licensed, my entry into the hair business. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed making people look like they want to look and, styling hair.
That's a great, actually, that's very young to begin that type of business.
Yeah.
But, you had, like you said, the talent for it, and it was in your family, so it's something you were exposed to. So you were like a mini expert when you
Maybe so.
began.
And I took every opportunity that I could to get it done,
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah. So your identity as a self-care business owner with business knowledge and experience in the wellness industry is very unique
Uh-huh.
because you have a mashup of the two. You know a lot about the role of the importance of self-care into business success, as well as being an experienced person as a hairstylist or a stylist, a salon owner. And those two things I think are major goals for people in the beauty industry. And I'm sure you've discussed self-care amongst beauty professionals, so you may be able to answer this question.
Okay.
Why is self-care important in the success of those working in the beauty industry?
Well, it's important because I believe that, you have to take care of yourself. And also, for me, a lot of people, they tend to mimic what they see. And so, when people come sit in our chair, I tell people if I'm sitting behind the chair or in front of the chair. Behind the chair is when I'm performing hairstyles and things like that. And as a cosmetologist, in front of the chair is when I'm performing as a mental health therapist. And so when people come sit down and talk to you, I mean, when they sit in your chair for hair services, they talk to you about everything. So you're trying to get their hair together and get their energy, right? I guess to go with the hairstyle or whatever. You have to basically practice what we preach. So if I'm telling you, girl, you got it, you can do this, that, and the other. You and they say, oh, but your hair is not looking good, or you look like you are running on low fuel. We have to exude what we are asking them to bring to the table,
Mhm.
for themselves. I think that in order to perform in a great manner, we have to present, you know, what we're asking for at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, that can be hard too because, a lot of times when someone goes to get their hairstyle, their nails done, and they're trying to feel good. And, when
Mhm.
you look good, you typically feel good.
Yes.
So, how do you deal with somebody who may, and to it's almost like therapy when you go to
Mhm.
a stylist or to get your nails done, your hair done, because you get to talk about some of the stuff that's going on with you because you're there with that person for a long time. Like, it's not a 30-minute visit usually,
No,
it's
that's the shame.
hours. So you can't be there, like, being quiet the whole time, not talking about anything, although there are people like that who don't like to interact.
Mhm.
So if you find somebody who does not like to interact, I'm going off script right here for a minute, does not like to interact, how do you engage with them?
Well, for me, it's probably a little easy because I am qualified in the mental health realm, right?
Yeah.
It's always to with the empathetic ear, trying to understand. Are you okay? What's going on? You seem a little different today. Are you sure? And eventually, they'll hear you. But if they're used to me, I tell people all the time, you attract the people that you are like, that you're most like, right? And so, and when the people in the area or in the salon can feel your energy or know that the other people are pretty much the same, often they speak to you or talk to the people that's in the space and they feel more comfortable, right? And so when you get them talking about sometimes somebody may suggest something like say if they said, my daughter gave me a time this morning before get to the daycare. And then that person might say, me too. I'm dealing with that, you know. So, you're like, that's what's going on, or
Yeah.
hear them and they also you see them texting or whatever and or like the body language or whatever and you're like, are you sure you're all right? You okay, girl? It's okay. They may say a few things or whatever, and then you just join a conversation from there. But the thing too is that for me, I'm never loud about it because if I don't want nobody to hear my business, I'm sure they don't want nobody to hear their business.
Mhm.
Having a tone that they feel comfortable with, so
Mhm.
it's they know that it's just you and them talking. Or sometimes you might say, okay, okay, thank you, and let them know that you're trying to keep their secret safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is that one of the things that influenced you to become a therapist?
Probably, but I also want to know how and why people think and do what they do, right? Being around so many different people, you just often want to know, like, why does it work like that? And so
Mhm.
I think it did expand on it. I think it did, especially starting so young, or even sometimes hearing stuff like, and this might sound like a lot of people listening, and stuff like, well, my man, he likes my hair like this, or I don't want to wear my hair like that. And I'm like, it's about you. Like, you can't do everything to please this guy, It's about you.
Mhm.
And then even showing them some new things about yourself, like bringing who you are out and not just appeal or appease a man. You got to appease yourself, Some of those,
Self-love.
yes, 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 yes. And trust me, being in a chair, especially in the salon, and someone says, "Well, that looks good on you," and then
Mhm.
other people are like, "Yeah, girl,"
Yeah.
it really encourages somebody and influence them to start building their self love. So that's a valuable statement, a valuable feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
It's very positive.
mhm, mhm.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges beauty professionals face when it comes to self care and wellness?
Time, okay?
Huh?
And so I like, I'm not gonna lie to you, if I'm working at even in both industries, right? But if I'm working, I'll keep moving. I'll keep going to the next client, to the next client, to the next client. Taking the time out to to take care of yourself is probably the hardest thing, or putting yourself in a slot, because sometimes what people don't recognize is that they are more selfish with your time than you are, right? And
Mhm.
so if someone's sitting there, you know, um, they'll say, "Oh, can you just curl this tight real quick, a little tighter?" That's a
Mhm.
lot of my older clients, right? They're like, "I need some tighter curls, I need, okay, can you pin curl it, And sometimes, most times, it's not a problem, but
Mhm.
if you have planned to put your hair to shampoo your hair between this client and then the next client that's coming, you lost that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing, but it's just like, okay, I'll do mine later. But you
Yeah.
have take the time and find the space to do it. Even if it's at the beginning of the day. If you get your hair shampooed at the beginning of the day and wrap it before your clients come in, you good. Because just
So you have to
curl.
put it on a calendar, you mean? Like,
You
does
probably
it work
should.
if you
You
put it on a
probably
calendar?
should. You probably should. And I'm thinking that since you said that, you probably should to pencil yourself in, because it does matter. Because if you have to go somewhere after you finish everybody and your hair's not done, nails are not done, then so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can see how those factors can be barriers to a beauty professional receiving care. And it
Mhm,
reminds me of some of the barriers that nurses might
mhm,
experience self care as well.
mhm, mhm,
I wrote about this on my blog and about some self care practices that beauty professionals can incorporate into their routines to
mhm,
combat some of these barriers. Like, for example, staying hydrated. A lot of times, as a nurse, we keep running, running, running. It's almost, you got to do this next. You got to
mhm,
do this. And you work like a 12-hour shift. And before you know it, you're at your 11th hour. You haven't eaten. You
uh-huh,
haven't gone to the bathroom, you
uh-huh,
haven't drank anything to go to the make you go to the
mhm,
bathroom. So it's very important for us to like make sure we schedule our hydration, make sure we
mhm,
taking breaks.
mhm, mhm.
And on the opposite end of things is to also take time to sleep
Yes, 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 yes.
because you have to recover from that long,
Mhm,
long day,
mhm, mhm,
where you're
mhm,
giving to others more than you taking for yourself.
mhm,
You
mhm,
know,
mhm.
and
I
also
understand.
scheduling like a day for you to do something for yourself and not
Uh-huh,
for anybody else is
uh-huh,
is important too.
uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
But, yeah, just like those self-care tips, they cross between beauty and healthcare
Yeah,
very, very similarly. Yeah. So that is one of my reasons why I really started this journey
okay.
about self-care and wellness because I found myself working too much, I think.
Mhm,
7 days a week and, long shifts and not even making time for people that will be there if something happens to you,
mhm.
you have to make time and make those connections with those people. Anyway, that said, how did your experience in the beauty industry prepare you for a career in mental health? I think you probably talked about that a little bit.
Well, the way it prepared me is to know that when people sit down, you never know what's going on with them. Just like you as a nurse, you never know what's going on with them. To make sure that you hear them, see them, and listen to what they're saying. You can't impose your beliefs or thoughts on them because you don't know what they're going through. You know what I mean? We think the best relationships, how when people were saying they wanted a relationship like Beyonce, this, that, and other, but then people start thinking differently when they saw that little that altercation happened, right? And so people can think that everybody
Mhm.
has all these things put together and they
Yes.
are like falling apart, you know. And so being able to hear them, see them, and listen to them and know that their stories are unique, so that really makes a difference.
Yeah, that is an interesting bridge between the industries. All right, so we
Mhm.
separated into a healthcare bit. Yeah. I want to ask a few more questions. Since working with clients can be emotionally draining in many professions, including beauty, how can beauty professional manage the stress and maintain their healthy boundaries?
Put those things in a box. That's what I think. Okay. So, and after a while, for most of us, we learn that we can learn to put them in a box and leave them there. Right. So, if you know, for instance, if you know that someone is in an abusive relationship, for example, right? And you know, you worried about her or him. I'm going to say him because he could be in an abusive relationship, right?
Wow.
And so you worry. And, you know, but you know that this person is going to still go and meet this person. And you worry, you like, okay, I gave them instructions on how to start to leave or to rectify their situation. It could be someone who is having food needs or whatever, right? I gave them instructions on how to go to apply for stamps or go to the food pantry, whatever, right? So after you know that you have put your best foot forward to help them and what they need, you put that box to the side and revisit them on the next time. If it's the next hair appointment or the next psych therapy appointment, you put that in the box until that next time because you gave them some information that they need to work on. You can't put people's needs on the or their wishes or make them priority over what they are prioritizing. You
Mm,
know, and you can't make them do anything. So you have to let people actualize in their own space. You know what I mean? You
mhm,
know, you could have saw this person snatch somebody up outside. You like putting his hands on her again. But if she has not found it in her place to leave, you
mhm.
have to be patient. So you put that patient, her and that patience in that box and put them there until the next time you see them. You know what I mean?
You have to be talented to do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, because a lot of people and I think about this too,
Mhm.
just, being in healthcare. I think, how does a therapist handle all these things? These are like problems people have. And they come to you and they're just telling you all of this stuff. How do you handle that? Like put it
Mhm.
in a box.
Mhm.
It's a good way,
Mhm.
for the person that is not good with doing that. Are there any other ways they could handle it?
Well, let me say this. I've have been someone said, "How do you deal with that?" And they have imposed their thoughts on me, what they think that I would do. Or you got to be careful not to take those things on. Or you got to just, and I'm like, I'm a professional. I have developed this skill over time. Okay, and so it's been times many people will say it to me, and I look at them and I'm thinking, get yourself together first, and then you'll be able to handle other people's issues. See what I'm saying?
That is
And
very
I am
true.
okay. I'm fine where I am, right? And so when they say that, I want you to just like you in your industry, when they say, "Oh, they don't trust this, or they don't like this, they don't like that," you start looking at them saying, "Maybe that's you, what your issues are, but you can't impose that on me." And so I don't take those in when they say. Sometimes I have to, brush people off, flag them off, whatever, right? Don't put that on me. I'm skilled in what I do. I know what I do. I know how to make people, but people don't understand just because one person came in saying saying that somebody was hurting them or somebody stole their money out of the bank doesn't mean I haven't heard this story before. But because of the experience, does not
Yeah,
mean does not mean I can't help this other person. I
yeah,
take the experiences, because a lot of times I'm solution focused, right? I'm like, well, what do you want to do? What
mhm,
you trying to, what outcomes are you trying to have, right? And it's even for hair. Like, what are you trying to do? What you want to look like?
mhm,
Um, so
mhm.
take that perspective, right? And you utilize it. You don't have to worry about taking things home or or stuff weighing so heavy on you. And I've learned to do that. Like, because I have a large client load. So, but it was the same thing when I was in the salon, like all the time. Like it was like this person is not gonna justify this next person's appointment.
Mm,
They want something different. Just like your patients. They're different. You have to,
yep,
you bring a different person, a different perspective to everybody. So
yeah,
don't
individualized.
pose your I can't handle it
Yeah,
because that's what you may do or may not do. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Some people say, "Oh, COVID, it was so much." Sure, you still a nurse?
yeah,
Yes. You know what I mean? So you like, I handled it though. You
Yeah,
still you
but not everybody got out of COVID,
yeah, exactly. But I'm saying, but you did, right?
but professionally, yes,
Yes.
I
And it
get
was a rough time, but you knew how to manage at that time.
yeah,
You knew you did what you had to do to manage. And I get that part. I'm just saying, like some people's like, I can't do this no more. And that's their prerogative. But
yeah,
for you were like, I'm taking these precautions. You share with everybody, what they should do, this, that, and the other. So the same thing, sis with us. I think that when people are scared for you,
mhm,
I think they put that on, you keep talking to you about it. I think that they can make you make mistakes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I like that way when, and I feel the same way. As soon as I'm finished with my shift, I don't bring all of that stuff home. Like you
Yes.
say, I pack it away so it's not here in front of me. I can't see. I mean,
Yeah.
I think about the experience, but it doesn't like overtake me
Yeah.
or I don't like worry about this person like constantly because I took care of them and I know all these
Exactly.
things, you
And you
know.
did what you had to do. You're a professional.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So
Just
good.
like they tell us, when you come to work, you put your stuff you leave it at the door, you come in, you take care of your patients, and then you go back to your problems, on the outside. Anyway, I know you own several businesses where you have employed and supervised people in the beauty industry and in mental health. So I want to ask you how self care practices, including boundaries, can translate into effective leadership skills. Can it increase a person's emotional intelligence or improve communication or anything like that?
It can improve everything, because like when you're leading by example, such as yourself, when you're leading by example, and like if I tell them, like for instance, if somebody has a bias or something, right? And
Mhm.
and they're talking about, well, I can't believe this and that person, this and that, you're like, okay, so did you take yourself out or did you see that from their perspective? I need you to take yourself out of the situation
Mhm.
as a overseer or a provider and put yourself into that position and see how it might seem if you were that person. Say if I'm gonna give you an example when somebody said, oh, he's a good man and she doesn't like him, I don't know what her problem is, and I might say, okay, but did you hear what she said about him?
Mhm.
He ignores her when they get home. He don't curse her out, but he ignores her when he get home. That's
Mhm.
lonely. Now I want you to put yourself in a position, if you went home every day and and you're basically there by yourself and he's just sitting there and you're lonely, would you want to stay with this person? I don't care how much money it is. It's
Yeah.
like that. So, so I have to sometimes have to invite people as a supervisor, an experienced person, to look at things differently so that they can not use their own objectives and supporting other people. You know what I mean? Because it's so hard for people to first understand other people, because people look to be understood first, and
Mhm.
not a good thing, right? Especially in our industries. You can't just go on to people telling people to, I'm just gonna give you this. I'm gonna tell the doctor that you need this, prescribe this, and you haven't understood what's going on with them.
Yep.
Know what I mean? So it's the same thing now around, so and that allows you to be, when you learn these skill sets, makes you understand people better. Or I'm gonna say this too, because I'm not a male, working with a different population than who you are or what you exude, like what you express, identify as, helps you to understand that other population better, like men. And when I talk about
Mhm.
men, and people say, well, they don't care. And I'm like, they do care. Like a lot of them want to be more emotionally intelligent too, but they don't know how to express that. They haven't learned. So my job is to teach them so they can come be a great man to you.
Yeah.
So you experience some of those things with that.
So, do you have therapists or clients who are in the beauty industry that are clients of your therapy business? And do they have like exude any issues when it comes to like I guess handling other people's problems? Is that something that or do they typically are able to do that? Or is this like most of them may have more maybe trauma-based problems
The client
versus
or the cosmetologist.
the cosmetologist?
Okay. So I do think that people identify as trauma bonding, right? I
Mhm.
think that connections, right? So I think people connect from where they are or the perspective of with which they see life at that time a lot of times. So some people, we only think of a negative, but I'm gonna say in the positive. Some people like to be around people or like to take clients in the beauty industry that they feel are doing it, like are making it happen. I like make a lot of money, this and the other, right? So it's the same thing. So they'll connect with them and it imposes on them a more optimistic perspective of trying to get, trying to, maximizing their careers.
Uh-huh.
So I went to the pessimistic side first, but that's not always where it is. So people can find strength in working with people who are living their dreams, and it helps them to live theirs as well.
Okay. So, yeah, I can see where that will be like a positive thing.
Like they like, oh, all you did was this, that, and the other. I like that, So
How can a beauty professional create a positive and relaxing environment for their clients and make the experience a form of self care for everyone, including the beauty professional? I know you talked about that briefly.
okay.
Or is it similar to how therapists approach creating a comfortable environment?
Yeah. However, I want you to know that comfort is in the eye of that person, right? Because I'm going to tell you this, I've had different types of furniture, but I take surveys, right? I've
Mm,
had chairs that like the ones that go back, and some people don't like those, right? Because
mhm,
they climb too much, right?
mhm.
I've I felt like were cozy, and some people like them and some people don't. I've had smaller chairs, and some people say they're tight, right?
Uh-huh.
And I've had, especially for people who might have a debilitating issue,
Mhm.
so whatever, they may say the chair too low.
Yeah,
Shorter people may say the chairs are too high, but in the industry I'm in, we deal with ADA too, right? So, yeah, I'm listening to hear what people are saying, doing, or what they like, on what furniture can actually help them. I also had a chase lounge. Now, I'm going to tell you, some people will come in with a chase lounge, take their shoes off, rub their feet, and especially like my male clients, right, will get comfortable because,
mm,
but often wondered, were they being more comfortable because it was a time for them to actually relax and take off the responsibility of protecting their family and the world. You know what I
yes,
and
yeah,
well, some women come in and they feel like they would appear to be like on edge, and they might sit on the couch like this or whatever, like worrying, or they sit up. You got to pay attention to their body language,
yeah,
right? And so sometimes I say, you want to sit on this couch, you want to go here, you want to go there. One of the
mhm,
girls in my space, on my team, she would dim lights or whatever, right? I can't dim light like that because I might, it might make me a little too sleepy, right? Uh, um, but we have done that with different types of light bulbs and all those
okay,
things. And even in the salon, I like music, right?
yeah,
On that, and everybody's different, but I found like commercials can bring on a different perspective. I feel like, like TV shows, the housewives and all those things, they will bring people down because people want to have lives like them. But I feel like, music is good for the soul, okay? And so, and you can change it. You can change the genre really quickly,
right,
do some reminiscent type music. You could do some up to date music. You could do rap, you could do whatever, right? And so music seems to work. The other one for me, game shows. I love game shows because
yeah,
for game shows, you don't have to think a whole lot
right,
for later. You can think in the moment and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Or
mhm,
have fun with
mhm,
or see what someone else thinks, right? So you have to put those things into perspective, depends on your clientele. Now remember, you can't please everybody. You know what I mean?
true,
And so I'm not changing furniture because this person says, no, I like orange couches. I
mhm,
like this, I like that. But I do know that a lot of people enjoy the aesthetics of a place.
mhm,
So I will change my aesthetics quite often because I like furniture. I like change and I like color and I like, certain things. The other thing with that too, and I'm sure it's in your industry as well, I notice when certain people attract to certain colored walls in the different offices that I have or the
mm,
different places, if they like it yellow, I can see their mood. If they like the dark, I can see their mood. If they like certain things or if they complain about yellow, I'm like, they made me down. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Little
mm,
boosted their energy a little bit,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
I also have a pink plaid sofa. Some people like it and some people probably do not. it may be too much for them, and it may take maybe taking them out of their comfort zone. But
Yeah.
it also allows people to know that it's okay to be who you are when you step into my space because I'm going to be who I am. You
Mhm,
know,
mhm,
and I showed it in my furniture, even in my salon. I showed it in my furniture. You
mhm.
know,
Yeah.
it's okay to make change. It's okay to make change.
Yeah, you don't need to be the same all the time,
Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Mhm,
I said in the healthcare industry, especially during COVID times,
uh-huh,
we had to wear, like, hats,
mhm,
right? And people will one reason there's a uniform in healthcare is to identify who you're dealing with in
mhm,
healthcare. But in COVID, we had to wear these hats, and people, because of what was happening, a lot of people having isolation problems and all of that. One of the things where people were expressing themselves were the hats.
okay, okay,
But
okay,
some of those hats would be very triggering for the patients because the patients are on these medicines and the medicines alter their reality at sometimes.
okay.
And so they because you like it doesn't mean that the other
Yes.
person likes it, and it might actually trigger something for them.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Especially in that environment where you can't control it as much as like in your environment where,
mhm,
the person has the option, they can get up and go, they can change rooms, all that kind of
mhm,
stuff. But that was a problem that we actually had to address because people were wearing things that were triggering for
mhm,
some people,
mhm,
like,
mhm,
really like skulls. I mean, if you're in a intensive care unit and you laying there real sick and you have some awareness that's going on what's going on with you, and you come in there with skulls and all this kind of stuff in your head, that's very depressing to that person. So to keep it plain, we had to say, well, not all of these crazy designs, not everybody likes them, and like you say, you can't please everybody, but you have to be aware.
You have to be mindful. You're right about that. You are so right. And like you said, because of that, I don't have trauma shows planned in the waiting area.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know, that will be
yeah,
triggering for a client, you never know what's going on, So we make sure we don't have that, So
yeah.
music easier.
Music is easier. Yep, absolutely. Changes your mood quickly.
Mhm.
And then notice another thing with the commercials that you mentioned. When I turn on the TV, it's very aggravating to me because a lot of the times, when you're watching the TV, the commercials aren't positive either.
No.
Commercials, most of them have some kind of pill, some kind of medicine, some kind like, if you have this, do this. Yes, we know medicines help and they're very important,
Uh-huh.
but not for every situation. Like,
Uh-huh.
and then when you repeat that over and over and over, people think this is the only thing that will help their situation instead of going to a therapy session to figure out what has happened with them, I don't know, 10 years ago that still they haven't dealt with, instead of putting a pill in the person's mouth and say, "Okay, that's your therapy. You take this every day," and it doesn't solve anything for them, but just causes a lot of side effects. So the watching the TV and seeing that for me, I don't like it because I've seen people on tons of pills,
Mhm.
and it causes a lot of complications
Mhm.
with people. Yes,
Uh-huh.
you have to take things when you necessarily have to take them, you know, to keep your life normal, but for
Uh-huh.
certain things,
Mhm.
I think we overuse
Mhm. Mhm.
certain medications.
Mhm.
And these are some young kids are exposed to this stuff
Mhm.
early, and they think that this is, like, normal instead of going outside and try to make a friend or,
Mhm.
like, riding your bike or something like that to,
Uh-huh.
these different hormones going. Anyway, that's just me going on a tangent there. The
No,
whole
I
TV
agree.
thing.
I agree with you because we have it also deal with that because people are coming in saying they want to do this particular therapy, they want to do this. And I'm like, you don't even know what those things entail. So for people like myself who use an array of therapy practices, I'm an eclectic provider, right? So it's like some things you don't know that can re-traumatize you. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know, but they think that because they may have heard it on TV or somewhere else that it's going to work for them, but every situation is different. And just like a teacher, I don't tell everyone, okay, I'm using cognitive behavior therapy today. I'm using I can't do that because then some people push back or they fight against it, So if I make it seem natural to you, you don't know what we're
Yeah.
doing. But when you think that you can introduce a therapy process to me that I can see that might hurt you more, expose you to more things, we have to work our way into that. So I can see how the TV and the commercials, because it bring it to us to even tell me what kind of medication that they should be on. And I'm like, I don't prescribe, okay? So,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
check that out with the nurse practitioner or the psych, okay?
Mhm.
Or, and I'm sure you get that too. It's like,
Yeah.
that's how I feel. I can help you, but, talk to them, but I don't do that part, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Commercials are something, or I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna add to this. Or when they tell you, the commercials say, could lead to heart disease, could lead to thyroid cancer, could lead this, and people coming there saying, do you think I have cancer? And I'm like, what are you talking about? When to get that? How'd you get to that? The commercial heard, and I'm like, I can see how you can feel that, because sometimes I have to turn it off myself. And I'm like, let me turn this off. They don't start thinking because I took a Tylenol last week, I might have a cancer or something. So
Yeah.
you have to turn it off, so
Yeah. Yeah. You
like
just
those
have to mute it during the
yeah,
commercials and
yes.
talk to your professional person,
Yes, yeah.
your doctor, your therapist, whoever it is, let them give you some, great advice.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the self care strategies that you incorporate into your routine that have helped you maintain your energy and
My
your
energy
passion for
okay.
business or the beauty industry while also being a mental health practitioner?
Okay, so I like social media, but I don't have a lot of time because I can't be on social media and talk to people at the same time, right? Or.
Yeah.
So I try to kind of stay with that, right? Just see what trends are going on so I can stay away from them or
Mm,
incorporate them, right? So that's one thing. But I like massages, right?
mm,
So I schedule a massage. I might just pop up and say, I'm gonna go get a massage today and tomorrow, because that's what I like, right? Also take myself out. I enjoy time with my family. I travel when I feel like it, okay? Because I don't have to have a special day. If I want to go, I'm gonna go. If I want to
mm.
do something, I'm gonna do that. I think I don't do a lot of timelines, right?
So
Because
spontaneous
yes, I like
stuff.
those better.
Yeah.
Because too much planning is just too much for me. Some people like that. It works for them.
Yeah.
If I plan too much, I know I'm gonna overpack. Okay? Let's say that. Okay? And then I'm like, I bought all these clothes for 2 days, okay?
Yes. Or you
You
can go
know?
with nothing. You can go with
Yeah,
an empty suitcase, just the
yeah.
necessities, and go shopping.
Now that'd be great. I think I like that one
I
too. Yeah,
want to try that one time.
yeah. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try that. And that will be wonderful because I like to see what the trends are in different areas, as a matter of fact.
Mhm.
I'm gonna try that. One of the girls used to work with me said she did that. She went to Miami and just shop when she got there. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. And so, the other thing is to pay attention to like when you feel like you're losing your energy. If you feel like, something is off, because I tell a lot of people, most times, a lot of times, don't recognize they're in a depression until they either on their way out or they've been there for a long time, right? And they don't recognize the change in their behavior. So pay attention to yourself. If you feel like, something's off today. Oh, I used to enjoy um needlepoint. I'm gonna say needlepoint and don't know how to do it or anything, right? But I used to
Mhm.
enjoy needlepoint. And all of a sudden I just don't like that no more, right? I used to take walks around the neighborhood. That happened, but I don't like those no more, right? I'm
Mhm.
just thinking about maybe woe is me,
Mhm.
pay attention to those things, right? And because it can happen to any of us, okay?
Yeah.
Any of us. And so if you pay attention to yourself, you will be able to understand any regression, any trends that you're going through, any, setbacks or whatever,
Mhm.
um, that you're possibly handling or going through. But the other thing too is if there's something that happened in your family or something that happened that really sparked your attention or piqued your attention, I think that you should ask yourself, why am I feeling like this is important to me right now? Like what happened? I didn't used to pay attention to this. Like even for me, watching the news, right?
Mhm.
I was the news watcher, right? Now I notice, and my family teases me all the time. If something happens, I say this, that, not, and they'll say, "Turn on the." I'll say to them, "They be like,
Turn on
oh,
the
they
news.
turn on the news, yeah, right?" Because they know I don't enjoy the news. But I'm like,
Mhm.
with everything going on, I feel like I need to know what it is. But at the same time, the other things might put me in a negative space, right? So
Mhm.
pay attention to the things that's happening with you. And don't ignore your family. I'm not saying if somebody says, you're mean. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about they say, you've been acting a little, you've been a little different lately, or you've been like lashing out, or you've been quiet.
Uh-huh.
You haven't responded like you normally do. Everything okay? And you might say, yeah, but really it's not. So you're like, is
Yeah.
everything okay? What happened last week? What happened yesterday? What's going on today? So you have to really check in with yourself to make sure you stay up
Yeah.
on your mental health.
Yeah. Those are great methods for staying motivated and engaged. I want to add something where I think a lot of people, and I see it more lately now,
Mm-mm.
talks about like perimenopause and menopause and how that is affecting people mentally,
Okay.
the change in the hormones or whatever is causing some women to not feel good, like you expressed, not the same, quiet, don't like to do this anymore. And I think if you're in that time of your life, that you should reach out to your provider and make sure you ask those questions that, can help you with your mood and other changes that you go through.
And your therapist should also ask you those questions. I ask questions all the time
Yeah.
as not just their mental health, but their physical health, right?
Mhm.
To ask them what has changed, what's going on with you. Like, what have you noticed? Like, some people say my cycle is coming. Like, is it the same? And they might say no, or I missed it. So are you worried about being pregnant? Or there's that time where you're
Mhm.
about to go into, a change of life. And so, but sometimes people don't recognize that. So you have
Yeah.
to bring it up so you can
Yeah.
understand, what's going on. And when the hormones change, that's for both male and female. When your hormones change,
Yeah.
it's going to be a shift.
Yeah.
So you have to ask a medical provider, as I have done myself, what you think is going on. And they'll give you the advice,
Yeah.
that you may need, because everybody's body changes.
Of
It's just
course.
development. So,
Yeah. Even as a teenager, going
yes,
from a
yes,
kid
yes,
to
yes.
a teenager, those are hormonal changes, you know?
My That's the other thing. So people don't tend to not respect their children's feelings and issues because they believe that they're young, but they're going through more we are. So we got to remember that part. And so they so young. I've had so many people tell me, I thought first I would say, they too young, you don't have any problems. Internally, they are having a whole host of problems.
Yeah.
Things are just, changing, and they don't know what it is. So pay attention to that as well, to them as well.
Yeah. And I think too, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so it's very different today. And I heard like horror stories, and this is a really touchy subject about gender identity.
Okay.
And I feel as though that we don't allow, like you say, the kids to be the kids. Let them go through their stages. I've seen things in the media talking about a 12-year-old or 15-year-old getting a double mastectomy because they
Oh,
feel like they're a boy instead of a girl.
uh-huh.
But that could all be related to the
Uh-huh.
hormones and the changes,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
we're not patient enough to let the person get through
uh-huh,
that change with the medical help. Instead, we're just pushing the kid over to do these radical things. And I think that's harming a lot of people. We're just not
uh-huh,
seeing kids as changing. Like
mhm.
that's a normal
It's
pattern.
a norm.
They get
Mhm,
confused or whatever it is in puberty. They're just trying to figure out themselves, and all of this is going on. And we're not paying attention instead of talking, having dialogue and stuff, and having them see the professionals they need to see and not encouraging these radical things. There are kids who committed suicide because they regretted doing this radical thing. So yeah, staying in tune with yourself is very important,
and your children, like you
the
said,
kids.
because I tell people quite often, I want you to just go back to see how you felt as a teenager. Things were running rampant through your mind. Hormones raging and racing at the same time. So put yourself in a position, and sometimes these parents have to go to therapy with their children, you
Mm,
know, because sometimes the child will not open up by themselves. If you start a conversation, they will.
yeah,
You might believe the area,
yeah,
but they will. and tell them that you are trying to help them.
Yeah.
You're not trying to make them do one thing over the other, but you're trying to help them understand who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it may take time,
Yeah,
you know?
time. We're just instant gratification set of people nowadays. Want it now,
Yes.
when the internet first started, we had to dial a phone and you will like
Yeah.
dial up and you have to wait a minute for the
Yeah.
screens to load. Now it's just like not even a second and stuff
Yeah.
you have it right there.
Yeah. And
AI is
the
here,
thing,
AI is giving you things
yeah.
like instantly. You don't even have
Yes.
to
And
think,
the res-
so yeah. But thanks for sharing. We are almost near the end of our time. But before we conclude our discussion today, I have a few rapid questions. Rapid fire questions is what I call them to
okay.
ask you.
Okay.
There are three questions.
Okay.
I don't want to put a time on them. Usually I say 30 seconds, but you know. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question number one. Define self care in 3 words.
3 words. Okay. Massage, relaxation, you. Okay.
Those are good ones.
Okay.
Question number two. What's one surprising therapy tool that's in your beauty kit? I should be playing the Jeopardy song.
Empathetic listening.
Listening?
Empathetic listening.
Okay.
And that's feeling, this is what we say in mental health, feeling sorry with and not feeling sorry for.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That there's a difference.
Mhm.
Number three. What is your favorite way to end a therapy or beauty session?
Okay. The way I end it is, okay, so I'll see you next week, or I'll see you at your next appointment. Is that all you have for me?
Mhm.
And I'll talk to you soon. Be great.
That's a good one. It's very
Mhm.
positive. All right, Miss Candy, you have opened my eyes to the self-care needs of those who provide self-care. For
Uh-huh.
our listeners who may be busy professionals with limited time, I like to do a quick recap where they can get a snapshot of our conversations. So, key takeaways that are inspirational about self-care and well-being.
Mhm.
Can you share a word of encouragement for those beauty professionals
Okay.
who are struggling to prioritize their self care?
The clients are going to come. Try to manage your time. Get there a little earlier than you're expected, and stop letting people steal your time. And that's by them, like the people who don't want to make appointments with you, but they come at the last minute. And for people who were like me, I enjoy the money, right? So I will work all day long. But you can't get that time back, right?
Yeah.
Take some of that time for yourself and enjoy nutritional meals, because a lot of times we eat fast and on the run. And especially when I worked in the mall, oh man, you get something real quick, you stuff and stuff and stuff and and you just go back. And it's so bad here and at the same time while you eat your little snack or whatever. So take your time and enjoy your meal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put that
Take
on
a
your
break. Take a break. Well, thank you, Carolyn, for sharing your time with me today. I know you operate multiple businesses in beauty and health. I don't want to miss any important contact details. So please let the audience know where they can find information about your business in beauty or wellness and where we can keep up with you.
Okay. So one of them, my linked tree is actually on Just Ask Candy. Dot, I'm sorry, Just Ask Candy on Instagram. But there's
Okay.
a website, justaskcandy.com. And then my mental health is one of the major ones is www.yoursafespace.org. Okay. Because I'm releasing my book, and you'll be able to find all the information there as well.
What is the title of your book?
My book is called Black Teen Mom Guide.
Okay. That's good.
Yes.
I saw a preview of it, so I'm in to
Yeah.
read through it and get to know it.
Yes, it's been released soon.
Okay.
So, and that should have its own website as well.
Okay, so we just go to your main page
Yeah,
on at Just Ask Candy.
yeah, justcandy.com, but
That's
you can also see it on my Instagram, which Just Ask Candy. Okay.
okay. All right. So
Yes,
link in the bio on Instagram, just ask Candy.
yes,
Great.
the link trick is there, okay,
Yes. And I'm
alright,
sure our folk will be very familiar with social media. They can
yeah,
reach out to you and support you as well. So thank you again. And thank you to everyone who was tuned in today. Visit our website. The handle is at Cheryl on Lux. It's on every platform. So be sure to like and subscribe to get notified of our next episode. Until we meet again, be well.
okay, thank you.